Out with the old. With 2026 nigh, here's some wide-ranging intel on managing transitions. It's that time, December's waning days, when we prepare to turn the calendar page. Many Americans take stock, review goals accomplished and unmet, ponder hopes and plans. How's our health? What's up with our money? What about the country? Will the coming year look like the departing one year or be something entirely different? Are we ready? It can be an overwhelming period, so the Associated Press reached out to professionals with varying expertise, home organization, risk management, personal training, personal finance, and political science to talk about their perspectives on changes and transitions. And for something a little different, we gave each interviewee a chance to ask a question of one of the others. So let's talk endings and beginnings. The change expert. Milestones steer emotions. Transitions are professional organizer Laura Oliveira's working life. As co-founder of Silver Solutions, she works with senior adults and their families to help make sure they're in safe environments, whether that means decluttering a lifetime of possessions, downsizing to another home, or helping families clear a house after a loved one's passing. She offers this. Changes, even exciting ones, can unearth sadness or grief over places, things, and people left behind. Acknowledging those feelings can help smooth the move from one chapter to another. When you let go of something that was meaningful to you, it deserves a moment, she says. Whatever that moment is, could be a second, could just be an acknowledgement of it, or maybe you set it on the mantle and you think about it for a while, and when you're ready to let it go, you let it go. Next question. Certified personal trainer Carrie Harvey asks, what small weekly habits can I build that will help me stay organized during the year? Olivares tips. In December, do a brain dump of thoughts, ideas, and goals. Then, before January 1st, schedule out tasks that move those priorities forward over the course of 2026. Olivares suggests 3 tasks on each of 3 days, so 9 tasks per week. The actuary planning is important but sometimes fickle. Probably no group of people think more about the future than actuaries. Using data, statistics, and probabilities, they devise models on how probable it is that certain events happen and what it could cost to recover from them. Their work is vital to organizations like insurance companies. Listen to R. Dale Hall talk, though, and he sounds almost philosophical. He's managing director of research at the Society of Actuaries. Asked how the general public could think about the new year, he readily brings up strategies like mapping out risk scenarios and how to respond. There's a balance to be struck, he says. We can't control or predict everything and must accept the possibility of something unexpected. And the past isn't always the perfect guide. Just because something happened doesn't mean it must again. It's the nature of taking risks, right? That, yeah, there are going to be uncontrollable things, Hall says. There are ways to maybe diversify those risks or mitigate those risks, but no one has that perfect crystal ball that's going to see 3, 6, 9, 12 months into the future. Next question from personal finance educator Dana Miranda. Thinking about the variables we consider when making decisions or plans, how might the juxtaposition of the holiday season with the new year affect the way people are evaluating their finances and setting goals at the beginning of each year? What do you recommend they do to ensure the holiday experience doesn't skew financial goal setting? Hall's advice: keep them separate. He recommends people enjoy the holidays and hold off on financial goals until January. The Personal Finance Authority. Be intentional about money. In her work as a financial writer and a personal finance educator, Miranda encourages people to make conscious choices about their spending and saving and understand that there's no absolute rule. Miranda, author of You Don't Need a Budget, says details are key. What works for one person may not work for another, and it's something Americans should consider as another year of goals and resolutions approaches. Insisting that the same technique works for everybody can leave people feeling stuck, Miranda says. We tend to be not good at talking about the nuances, and that leaves people with here's the one right rule. It's not possible for me to achieve that perfection, so I'm just going to feel ashamed of every move that I make that is not moving toward that perfect goal. Next question from Gian Teoharis, a political science professor who asked how Miranda gets people to look beyond the micro and consider the larger system of capitalism. How does she also get people to think about more collective solutions like union organizing, pressing city council, or Congress for changes? Miranda is quick to make it clear she's not an organizer but says she tries to evoke larger systemic issues when discussing personal finance. The way that I try to move that needle just a little bit is to always bring in that political aspect to whatever conversation we are having to make the systemic and the cultural impact visible. The trainer, make goals attainable. When it comes to changes and New Year's, one of the most popular areas is fitness, the subject of many of failed resolution. Personal trainer Harvey of Form Fitness Brooklyn says you can make positive, lasting change in fitness and generally with one philosophy: start small and build. We want to be mindful of making sure that we are not asking too much or trying to overcompensate for what we feel like we left behind this past year, or what we feel like we left on the table this past year, she says. It's very reasonable to try and have the goal of getting to the gym twice a week, maybe 3 times a week, and then building from there instead of saying January 1st, to I'm gonna be at the gym 5 days a week, 2 hours a day. That's not realistic and it's not kind to ourselves. Next question from Hall. What advice do you have for me to transition to an even more robust workout schedule in 2026 without falling into the risk of injuring myself by doing too much too soon? Harvey emphasized warming up and having a mobility routine and making the goal attainable by making it fun. Find things that you actually enjoy doing and try to fit those in as well as to that the idea of starting something new or adding to it isn't one that comes with a negative like, oh, I don't want to have to do this, where you're dragging yourself into it. The historian, learn from your past. It's not just as individuals that we think about transitions, nations and cultures have them too. We can learn from them if we look at our history honestly and not through the guise of trying to hide the ugly parts, says Theo Harris, professor of political science and history at Brooklyn College and the City University of New York Graduate Center. She points to the story of Rosa Parks, remembered as the catalyst of the Montgomery bus boycott 70 years ago. But when Parks chose to resist, she didn't know what her arrest would mean or what the outcome would be. Theoharis sees a lesson there for people looking to make change in today's world and even individuals wanting to evolve. A number of us would be willing to do something brave if we knew that it would work, Theoharis says, and we might even be willing to have some consequences. But part of what looking at the actual history of Rosa Parks or the actual history of the Montgomery bus boycott is in fact you have to make these stands with no sense that they will work. Next and last question from Olivares, who wanted Teoharis' thoughts on today's civil rights battles. Theo Harris referenced voting rights, which have been eroded in recent years. At the same time, remembrances of the turmoil during the civil rights years have become glossed over by a mythology of America overcoming its injustices. There's a lesson there about what it takes to make real change for individuals too, Theo Harris says. It's difficult to move forward if you're not honestly addressing what's come before. Part of how we have gotten here is by that lack of reckoning with ourselves, lack of reckoning with where we are, lack of reckoning with history.